very clean fashion. We've already mentioned that kind of Baron blunder, and we will get to that. Before we do, though, I kind of want to break down the formula to victory that CLG had put together here, starting with the team composition. I mean, Fiora going over to that Darshan very quickly, realizing, okay, this is going to be a split push kind of game.
Yeah, so NRG has a pretty clear team fight comp. They have like the triple AD carry with 2 frontliners to protect them while they kind of damage people from range, and then CLG has split push with Fiora. We were talking initially a little bit about how there was a concern of a lack of wave clear on CLG side with LeBlanc having the W in, but because the NRG comp has no lockdown CC, she actually cleared a ton of waves when NRG was trying to push on them.
Without any kind of punish, right?
No
we don't have the Lissandra R to lock her down and punish her when she comes in. So
maybe you land a Braum Q and then get the stun after she pops back to the W, but like at that point, you're really reaching for lockdown.
Exactly. Yeah. So we do see the lanes match up evenly, though, in the beginning stages of the game. Both teams lane swapping to the top lane. So we got to see that kind of play out. Normally, early gank down onto Darshan, blows the flash. No return gank, though. So not a ton of moves for NRG to get themselves off the ground. And in all honesty, I have to point at Moon for that in not having the return gank. But also, too, no marks picked up until very late into the game. The first one coming in at about 38 minutes on the Elise kill. I mean, they were still spawning on scuttles.
It's really hard to play against CLG. Like, let's not undersell CLG here and the way they constantly make you react to them.
True.
And stylistically, when you look at the matchup between NRG and CLG, like it does make sense a little bit that it's not going to work here. This is actually the Baron play we talked about, or Rib talked about in the interview, where CLG thought they'd have the damage to burn it down. And this is really the only mistake CLG made in the game. And it was also off of a missed smite by Xmithie. If he waits another 1/10 of a second, they get the Baron and then suffer the loss afterwards and lose, you know, a 3,000 gold swing in the other direction. The fact that CLG could recover from that disaster kind of speaks to how much better they were playing than NRG strategically in a macro sense.
Right, and a lot of that did come off the backside of the early inhib push by Darshan in that 1v1 matchup against the Malphite. And even so, again, as you mentioned, to showcase that once the inhib went down, the mid inhib went down in favor of NRG, the game just all it did was stall out. And very smartly, this is where we saw CLG kind of return to their roots, said, okay, we're going to reset the game. Let's not get in a tizzy. Let's not get off kilter, all because we gave away that Baron. They very cleanly kind of got the game back to a normal state and worked their advantage back down the map.
Yeah, and HuHi really shined this game, not only with like the wave clear we kind of talked about, but he made basically the game-winning play when he picked off Altec when NRG had the pressure around Baron. They were trying to get some picks. They go really hard on the Elise, and then he just pops the Ezreal.
Yeah, late game LeBlanc damage, the Q, mimicked Q, followed by a W.
Yeah, and then the E ended up hitting Malphite because the Ezreal was gone.
Right, yeah, didn't actually need the chain on the back end of that. I mean, that's the I guess the disadvantage that you work yourself into when you craft this 380 carry comp, and a very smart pick up there in the LeBlanc last pick by CLG, recognizing, all right, if we can remove one of these ADCs from the map pretty early on in a team fight, then their team fight becomes much less potent.
Yeah, and it was a kind of a critical itemization mistake by Altec. He had not been targeted by a Fiora or a LeBlanc pretty much the whole game, and we were just commenting about how that BF sword was looking nice in his inventory, but what if he had some magic resist, whether it's a QSS or even a Hex Drinker? He could have built the components for that, which would have prevented the one-shot in that situation, and when CLG actually wins the game again, wouldn't have happened if he'd gone with a Hex Drinker.
Right, yeah, and yet there it is. We saw what happens without the Hex Drinker. We'll never know what would have happened with a Hex Drinker. Yeah. Unfortunate, to say the least. I do now, though, want to get your opinions then on NRG. I know they were one of your big question marks at the beginning of the day, Mark, given that they were 4-3 with the gifted victory to be 5-3, only beating one team in the top 6. Well, they've played all 9 other teams now. What's your assessment after playing CLG?
I think they're a good team in terms of like their players, and I even usually like their drafts. It just seems like there's something missing in their coordination and execution. They're like, as Riv mentioned, like their game-winning play seems to be like stealing a Baron. They did it versus Tip, they did it versus Dig, they do it again here, and that's almost how they win. And aside from that, they kind of just are hard to make their own plays. They have the lowest number of first bloods actually of any team in both leagues, with only 1. Okay. And we saw Moon here struggling to get stacks. He went challenging Smite, and I didn't see him smite anyone almost the whole game. And then they had Red Trinket on Corki, and it just seemed like they're just off. If they like can get everything together, I think they'd be a really good team, but it seems just slightly off.
Right, and then on CLG's side, Jad, I want to get your opinions on them because we've seen them pick up now their 6th win, but their losses against Immortals, Cloud9, and Dignitas, those are that's a weird set of losses to have.
It is, because CLG plays such a unique game, and I feel like when they're not humming on all cylinders, they could lose to anyone, but they could also potentially beat anyone. And I do want to just combo off, you said there's something missing for NRG. It's everyone speaking the same language. I feel like KonKwon has to translate for Impact and GBM during the game. And that, I think, is why they're a step slow. And I think that is also why this is a terrible stylistic matchup between CLG.
Right, and doesn't help with Moon. Moon's been vocal himself about the fact that he sometimes gets left out of that communication loop. Maybe that does play into this whole idea that he's the underperformer, but it's more of a team effort thing that's,
it's really
it's affecting him more than anything. Anyways, it's a great victory there for CLG, separating themselves from the rest of the pack. Keep it dialed right here because League fans, we've got more action coming your way with Cloud9 versus Liquid. Stay with us. You're watching the North American LCS.